Think gadget reviews, news, and all about it.
YotaPhone 2 review. First they killed the home phone, then the MP3 player. Now they're taking little knife swipes at cameras, slicing a little deeper every month. The YotaPhone 2 explores a new avenue for the little gadget gremlins to exploit, by being an ebook reader as well as a phone. Like the first YotaPhone announced back in 2011, the YotaPhone 2 has two screens. There's a fairly normal color one on the front and an e-ink one on the back. The idea is you'll be able to flip the YotaPhone 2 over to let you read on the train on the way to work, or to check up on a few bits and bobs that don't really need direct interaction. This screen is always on, but hardly gobbles up any energy being so. Unless you look at the phone face on, there's no mistaking the YotaPhone 2 for anything other than a bit special. The rear e-ink screen will always be displaying something, unless you deliberately set it to show an all-black screensaver the whole time. To do so would miss the point. Smoother than silk. The rear e-ink display lives under a curved piece of textured Gorilla Glass 3 that makes the YotaPhone 2 one of the smoothest phones you'll ever lay a finger on. It's truly silk-like. It also means you need to keep any wild gesticulations at bay with the thing in your hand, as you may end up flinging it through your TV. High friction it is not. With toughened Gorilla Glass on the front and on the back, it's primed to avoid more wounds from your pocket, but the sides look and feel a lot more conventional. They're plastic reinforced with fiber, whether it's the stuff you get in carbon fiber or the stuff in Weetabix, it feels like plastic. But it should act as a bumper and doesn't detract from the otherwise incredibly smooth feel. Step back from the YotaPhone 2 and we can't help but decide it's not quite beautiful. Like seeing the face of a G.I. Joe jammed onto a Ken doll, it's provocative, but a bit jarring. And the phone's super curvy silhouette isn't really on trend in this era of 99.7% screen phones. Still, it's different, and we like that. Rocking the monochrome. YotaPhone is keen to big up a sort of interplay between the front and rear screens, and sure enough you can flip between them pretty easily by just turning the YotaPhone 2 over. When using one, the other locks. However, you don't just run standard Android over on the rear screen, but rather a custom YotaPhone interface that offers a set of customizable home screens into which you can plug native widgets. Crucially, one of these pages can be an e-reader. YotaPhone has made its own. Other bits and bobs you can put on there include a clock, weather widget, RSS reader and music playback controls. There are even basic games such as Sudoku, chess, checkers and 2048, one of the many games inspired by the Brilliant Threes. What you need to do to justify a YotaPhone 2 is to be able to come up with solutions where this screen will actually come in useful. It's a personal thing, but after a week's use I came up with two. First, reading when you can't be bothered to carry a Kindle, yes, or a Kobo etc. Next, making the YotaPhone 2 into a sort of desk buddy, offering the weather and time and a few basic notifications. We'll have to forget for a minute that a Poundland clock can take on many of the same tasks. It seems a shame YotaPhone hasn't included an IR blaster, as a universal remote control is one possible use for the style of the rear display. It would let the phone mimic the signals sent by your home cinema remotes. But maybe we'll get that in the YotaPhone 3 in 2017 or whenever, when remote controls have ceased to exist. The power of gray. Aside from offering a non-glare display, the real benefit of the tech of the rear screen is that it doesn't consume power to just display something, only to change what's on there. An e-ink display is made up of black and white, well, whitish, microcapsules that are raised and lowered to form the image. Moving them uses power. Them just existing doesn't. However, we don't recommend expecting the e-ink screen to do anything much more involved than that. Like a standard ebook reader, the display is very slow to respond, it's monochrome and it doesn't have the contrast of the front screen. These are limitations innate to the e-ink tech, Although we did notice that our YotaPhone 2 seemed to suffer from screen residue quite badly. This is where bits of black from a previous screen hang on like breadcrumbs. They're solved by a full flash refresh, but when reading these only happen every 10 pages. It can be distracting if you're not used to it. Android circa 1927. Want to see what the rear display is like doing more involved stuff? The YotaPhone 2 lets you do whatever you want on it. Using a mirroring mode, you can use full Android on the rear display. Play games, watch videos, they'll all look totally rubbish, but you're free to do as you please. It might not be a good idea to use mirroring for GPS navigation, though. Perhaps the e-ink screen of the YotaPhone 2 is something you need to use for a couple of months to really appreciate. But after using the phone for a week, the initial awkwardness hasn't worn off. Tying e-ink to a traditional phone only serves to highlight how slow the tech is. This is why advanced Kindle features such as the web browser have been experimental for almost a decade. They're still a bit rubbish to use. Even YotaPhone's dramatically pared back custom UI feels that bit too sluggish, just unlocking the screen is a chore. So whatever uses you decide on for the rear screen had better be good ones. Main screen, like that moment in Alice in Wonderland when. Around the front, the YotaPhone 2 is a lot more normal. You get a 5-inch 1080p display using a mold tech reasonably similar to that seen in phones such as the Samsung Galaxy S5. While QHD phones like the LG G3 are already here and the resolution is going to become the high-end norm in 2015, this is a pretty nice screen. It's large without giving your hand a workout, and gets you the incredible black depth that only OLEDs can muster. In a darkened room, a dark scene in a horror film would look a bit gray and washed out on an iPhone 6. Not so here. However, YotaPhone hasn't tamed the screen colors. Like other OLED phones, including the Motorola Moto X 2014, the display is quite oversaturated, giving it a larger-than-life appearance. It's not terribly distorting, but does mean that when you take photos off the phone and put them on a computer, they're likely to look a little glummer than you remember. Samsung now offers different screen modes for display snobs like us, but you have to put up with the oversaturated style here. Still, we won't complain too much about a screen with more pop than now. That's what I call Music 88. As you'd expect of a £550 phone, there's an auto brightness setting, and the screen copes pretty well with dark rooms and bright days alike, although the backlight is often a bit sluggish to change setting.